Fire and smoke. They can be a deadly combination for first responders, or when other emergencies due to hazardous materials such as chemical spills, poison gases, or radioactivity are involved, whether the emergency is an accident or deliberate. The training of first responders will often determine whether the emergency will be contained or become a catastrophe, and whether or not the victims and our responders in harm's way come home. Lives and our communities, businesses, and the critical infrastructure of our nation are at stake. In these uncertain times, there is a compelling need for enhanced preparedness. To achieve this, all emergency responders, public and private, face a universal challenge. How to train for a wider range of hazards. How to train with more realism. How to train in locations where emergencies actually happen. And most importantly, how to safely accomplish this training. What if you could safely and realistically train for any kind of fire, including flashover? What if you could learn to use a real thermal imaging camera to fight fires and see through heavy black smoke even when there is no fire, no heat, and no smoke? What if you could safely and realistically train for emergencies and threats caused by chemical spills, poison gases, or release of radioactivity? And what if you could see and interact with these hazards even when they are invisible? Harmless Hazards allows the trainee to better learn and understand the behaviors of all these emergencies and acquire and retain this knowledge long before facing a real incident. And what if you could conduct all this training in your own facilities, safely? The Harmless Hazards Training System answers these challenges. Tested and proven in both military and civilian environments, and utilizing state-of-the-art augmented reality technology, Harmless Hazards seamlessly combines real-world locations with convincing computer-generated emergencies, providing the best of both worlds. Reality training where emergencies actually happen. Achieving maximum proficiency for preparedness while reducing the risks associated with realistic training. Ensuring the safety of the trainee as the #1 priority. Harmless Hazards was developed and refined over several years and proved itself during demonstrations to thousands of Department of Defense and civilian firefighters and officers. Results of these rigorous demonstrations were universally positive, with comments such as these. "This is incredible. It looks like the real thing. It is a quantum leap forward. Now people will want to train. It's real training in a safe environment. It was awesome." Based on these successful demonstrations, the Navy purchased 2 Harmless Hazards training units. One for ship, one for shore. The Army also purchased a unit for the Army Transportation School at Fort Eustis, Virginia. Additionally, more units are being delivered and installed nationwide, including the New Hampshire Fire Academy and the Delaware State Fire School, to put recruits through rigorous training. The underlying technology for Harmless Hazards training is based on 3 elements: an emergency responder, an external environment with an embedded emergency, and a task to be performed. Both the environment and the task can be augmented with physics-based and semi-empirical-based computer-generated hazards superimposed onto and indeed anchored to the real world. The hazard may be fire, smoke, chemicals or gases, or nuclear radiological material. The task to be performed consists of applying computer-generated extinguishing agent to the hazard or conducting hazmat containment procedures. In Harmless Hazards training, everything, including the location, is real. except for the emergency. Individuals who will be required to go into harm's way will navigate through real locations to find the emergency and will experience the physical exertion and fatigue of real emergency response. The trainee, in full personal protective equipment, safely encounters realistic hazards whose look and physical behavior provide a truly convincing training experience in the real world, whether viewed directly through the augmented reality SCBA or even through an augmented reality thermal imaging camera. The realism is stunning. During hazmat training, once the behavior of invisible hazards are committed to memory, for example, the heavier-than-air property of a poison gas, or the presence of a radioactive dust, then the visual can be turned off, while detection and mitigation training continue. This enhanced situational awareness learned by the trainee is especially important for search and rescue tactical training. One of the most important tasks that responders perform is locating victims of the emergency and getting those victims, along with themselves, out alive. True search and rescue training is problematic in a propane live fire trainer and lacks realism in non-live fire training. Using harmless hazards, trainees can assess their own vulnerability to conducting further search and rescue within the structure. The Harmless Hazards Training System includes these components: a standard self-contained breathing apparatus face mask, outfitted with advanced augmented reality display of fire and smoke and extinguishing or hazmat, commercial off-the-shelf Very nozzle and hose with augmented reality extinguishing agent, an augmented reality instrumented hazmat CBurn detector, an augmented reality instrumented thermal imaging camera, an augmented reality motorized camera to observe a bird's eye view of the team in action, an instructor operator station to set up and control training scenarios, a leading-edge trainee tracking system allowing the computer to pinpoint trainee motions, metrics for measuring trainee and team progress over time, and a video record and playback system for after-action evaluation. The system is powerful, yet easy to use. The instructor has complete control over the scenarios, thanks to an intuitive point-and-click Windows graphical user interface coupled with a real-time dynamic display. The instructor can customize settings, such as placement of hazards, starting size and spread of fire, and location and density of any smoke layer, and save those settings for later replay to the trainee. Harmless Hazards can also leverage popular incident command software training tools by challenging an incident command trainee to manage both the incident and real firefighters who are confronting a realistic emergency. Harmless Hazards can function as a standalone training system for both local and distance learning. It can be installed in a fixed facility or in a mobile trailer containing its own instructor operator station. Harmless Hazards has been firefighter proven for the fire service and will now revolutionize emergency response across multiple government and civilian agencies. Harmless Hazards technology will fundamentally change the nature of training. Now, emergency personnel can train for potentially deadly scenarios without deadly consequences. Train for toxic gases without real chemicals. See and detect invisible radioactivity without risk of real exposure. Experience burning and smoking rooms without real fire and smoke. Train for flashover fires without danger of burn injuries. Apply extinguishing or containment agents without environmental cleanup. And because Harmless Hazards is readily available at your own facility, more people may be trained. More people will want to train and train more often. This capability is especially important during team training. Harmless Hazards achieves this by delivering high-risk training without the risk. In the end, our goal at Harmless Hazards Training is really quite simple: to train first responders safely, to the highest level of proficiency and preparedness, to help them save more lives and ensure they all come home.